So you want to start a side hustle. You're on YouTube right now, and you can't throw a stick without coming across something in your recommended feed or start a side hustle, do the thing. These 17 business ideas make blah blah blah. Right? They're everywhere. You can't get past them. And so, hey, I know what? I'm going to start one, and you start thinking about it, and then you start doing the math, and all of a sudden, the mathing isn't math and mathing out right, and you're like, man, this is going to cost a lot more than I thought. And what a research company in Australia did is they went and did the hard work. They did the surveys, they had the interviews, and we're going to take a look at an article from fastcompany.com and the corresponding report here to show that starting a side hustle really requires you to have your financials in order first. And it's very akin to, if you're struggling and you're not doing well financially, yes, you can start a side hustle. I'm not saying you can't. But for the vast majority of people, they start them after they're already in a financially secure position. It's like the old sayings, I'm gonna build a parachute after I've already jumped out of the plane. We want to make sure that you're already financially secure before you start your side hustle. And that's kind of what they're talking about here, the most successful ones. So with that, for those that don't know, my name is Ryan Howell. I'm a business coach that works out of West Michigan and around the country. And I come here live pretty consistently every single day on YouTube, sharing information I share with my clients. And I'm going to tell you how I connect this with my clients later. You'll be pretty interested with this. And I hope to earn your subscriptions. Let's get into it here. So this is from fastcompany.com. Links to this article plus the report are in the description. So be sure to go check that out. Now, from Fast Company, you need to be financially secure already to even contemplate a side hustle, research shows. And again, once we look at the data on this, you're gonna kind of see where this works out. Again, it's out of Australia, so every country, every region, every area is a little different. But this is a Western style economy, so there is definitely some correlation. Now, again, while some people assume that young people start a side hustle out of financial stress, researchers found side hustlers are actually relatively privileged cohort, and we're gonna take a look at that. See, doing pottery like as a side hustle. As I mentioned here, is side hustle really the only thing separating you from the life you desire? Question mark. Listening to some influencers on social media could certainly have you thinking so. Side hustles encompass a range of self-directed entrepreneurial activities undertaken while also working a job, right? You've got your job, it's your main source of income, and then there's an opportunity for, hey, how can I make a little extra money on the side? All right. So for young people with limited access to capital, they're the most accessible opportunity to engage in entrepreneurship, yet we still know very little about who takes them on and why and what kind of impact they have on working life in economies like Australia. The new report, which we're going to look at here, Side Hustles, How Young People Are Redefining Work, presents the first wave of findings from an ongoing 3-year mixed method study that seeks to answer the questions. Now, real quick, for those, we're going to continue in a second. For those that have been longtime viewers of the channel, you'll know I am a sciencey, mathing person. It's something I do with my clients. Like, we want data, lots of data, because our assumptions are garbage in general. What I think is right, I don't like to trust. I want to be able to go and research, and find research or do it myself, to check my biases, to check that, hey, just because it worked for Ryan, has it worked in the past for others? So I love this stuff. Absolutely love when we get to see this here. So anyways, the more sciencing stuff we can have, the better. All right. Now, in our first year of data collection, they surveyed 1,497 side hustlers from 18 to 34. And then there was another 68 that they did as well. The findings raised questions about the merits of entrepreneurship as a solution to youth unemployment. And that's one of the things they're talking about here is, hey, let's get the youths out there making businesses and side hustling, and not necessarily here. So they're going to talk about how they defined it here. Then we're going to look at the report. All right. And then we're going to talk about why I'm going to be sending this to my clients as a, hey, there's lessons to be learned here. Now, to be included in our project, a young person had to be employed, but also carrying out some form of entrepreneurship. They defined entrepreneurship as a self-directed economic activity where the side hustler has some measure of control over when they work, who they work for, and what they charge. The most popular side hustles, when we're going to look at this, was selling goods. Others included services like gardening, dog walking, creating media content, and in creative work such as graphic design. All right. And they have some gig work in there. All right. Again, go read the full article, and then we're going to come over here because I really want to get into the report. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Big fan of this stuff here. Now, this is just 1 year of looking at this. It's a 3-year ongoing survey, so we'll kind of see what that looks like here in a second. All right, so we're doing something here. Here's their side hustle. I'm not sure what that is. So we're going to look for some graphs here because we love those things. I don't want to get into the key implications because they kind of already talked about it here. Come on. Where's my charts at here? Here we go. So this is the breakdown. As you can see, the vast majority, like we talked about, are selling goods, things that you make. And then it gets into personal services like the dog walking, again, services, content, and other spot here. So services, handyman like moving furniture, content involves producing digital media such as TikTok videos, creative tasks, graphic design, and photography, right? Is what you see, right? And that's where you the folks who have this is where it tends to happen, where they've got a hobby that they enjoy doing something, then turns into, hey, I can charge for this. Oh, and then more people pay, and then it's a thing, right? But they don't do it starting off. It's something that they have as a hobby that then turns into something they can charge for, which is the many of these things here like that. All right, around 30% of young side hustlers have more than one side hustle. So the hustlers are hustling even more. And then 5% who have 3 or more side hustles. Whew, my goodness. And then most side hustlers do not involve the use of digital platforms. Just over 86% of side hustlers do their side hustle by themselves without a partner. So it's a solopreneur, right? That's where that comes from. So let's see here. All right, so here's the breakdown. I thought this was interesting just to see. So 54% of young side hustlers were women, right? So we got 54% were women. 13%, again, we got our Aboriginal, again, Torres Strait Islander. So again, this is Australia. 85% of hustlers were born in Australia. So they're saying like these are local born, not necessarily immigrants that they have that are coming in. 33% are in college. And 40% have caregiving responsibility. So they have something that they are doing in addition. So they have, again, I think they're at the home, so they have time. I think is where they're going with that. How did they fund this stuff? I thought this was interesting. 54% their own money, 11% were from parents. Parents helped out, 7% had received investment. So less than 10% of folks would be a traditional funding source. So that's interesting. And it makes sense, though, right? Something starts as a hobby and then they build it out. They start small, so they're able to scratch together their own cash. But like in some cases, they need to rent out a building or equipment or whatever. They bring in investors, right? You see that as well. And almost 50% use their savings to build instead of taking on debt, right? So it's a cash-based thing that they're giving it a try. All right, so this is how much time. 11 hours is what the average person spent working on their side hustle. Again, per week. About 11 hours per week spent on it. And then a little under half of all side hustlers reporting doing unpaid work to keep their side hustle running. All right, so that's a big piece there. 44% said, hey, we're not going to pay myself for doing this thing. It's just going to be, sweat equity at that point. But there's difference. 43% of women engaged in unpaid tasks. Men was 32%. So again, just the gender breakdown there that they have. And then here's the piece that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention here. And then we're going to get into what I'm going to talk to my clients about with this, is that the average, the median, which is the middle, not the average, but the median, which is the middle, $200 a week is what they're making for their side hustles, which is around $22 per hour. And then there was a further breakdown on this that, again, go check out the full report here, folks. I'm not going to cover every bit in here, but it's an interesting report to show certain things. And that it was $200 a week was the earning. And there was actually a pay disparity for what they made between men and women in there as well. It was women were at 200, men were at 300. It's just kind of where the math worked out. Reasons for that, again, it's only 1 year into the study. I imagine they're going to get a little more detail on that once they have it. But what I'm talking to my clients about here is something very, very important. And it's something that all of us should just keep in mind here, is that you don't engage. The most successful and best known practice is to not engage in additional cash flow, basically revenue producing activities, i.e. a side hustle, that that is outside of your core, basically the core way you make money, until you have extrapolated every last penny out of the way that you make your money and your finances are secured. You do not engage in additional revenue outside of what you do well. And I'm going to give an example here in a second, until you have really mastered what you do. And it has to do with the way that you build out your stuff, the way that you manage your overall resources. So let's say that you have let's say you're a business. Let's say I'm a coffee business. Just use coffee. So you have a coffee business, you have a cafe, right? And you're doing that. And all of a sudden you get this idea like, you know what? I'd also like to be, let's say, I'd like to open up a bakery. The caution that you want to have there is you have built everything up around your cafe, everything around your business, everybody, your supply chain, all the things have been built up in a way to support your ability to produce coffee in your cafe. Now, if you want to then use the same products and the same systems to, and then, hey, I'm going to build out into a bakery, you don't have the institutional knowledge. There's all this other stuff here. You're going to be highly inefficient. But frankly, you haven't really secured and locked in your overall, again, the coffee producing side of the thing. And that's where I caution business owners on this. Like, listen, we want to make sure you have full mastery, and this goes for individuals too. So we want to make sure that you have mastered and you are producing as much money as you can in what you are currently doing. So let's maximize that thing. So that way you have a good foundation. So then you can spend time on, once you have that foundation piece, on the side hustle, the other thing that you want to do, and you slowly move into it over time. There's everybody you've talked to and you see here on the YouTube and the internets there, those TikTokers saying, hey, just jump in, you'll get it. That's survivorship bias. The only people that are getting on TikTok, the only people getting on YouTube and talking about entrepreneurship are those people who have been successful in it. The vast majority of businesses don't make it. It's into the 87th percentile. Don't last past 3 years. So if you go all in on a business, on a side hustle, and move away from your current business, that is financially very, very unfortunate for you, because the chances of you doing well are kind of low. The other side of it, though, is that when we look at these folks that have side hustles and are doing this, you need to understand they've got another level. They typically, for the vast majority of their side hustle business, they have additional revenue coming in. It's not just on this thing. That's why it's called a side hustle. It's very difficult to scale a side hustle into a full business. That's the other side of this. So what this report says is what we thought it was going to say, right? But those who work in, again, my business and also in reality, most side hustles are run by people who already have a job that's paying well, and they have their businesses and their finances are in order. That gives them the freedom, not just the time, but also the mental peace of mind to be able to work on the side hustle in the way that they want to. When it is the side hustles that are a primary source of income, or you're trying to make that jump over, but you haven't secured your foundation, the chances of you being successful are pretty low. Like, that's what it comes down to. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on this thing. So, we're going to be looking at this, over the next couple of years as well. So again, go check out the links in the article, or the links in the description. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with it. So with that, hopefully I earned your subscription today. If you'd like to learn more about, how I help businesses grow faster than I ever thought possible, or again, and I also build companies that have value that sell, feel free to check me out at summitbusinessguides.com. Take